Alright, ladies and gentlemen, quick information about the Greeks and numbers, and then I'll give you some more specifics about your discussion board. Let's see. First things first, the Greeks love numbers, as hinted at in the textbook, and I've got a lot of material written out on that. To elaborate a little bit more, I'll tell you that they specifically love numbers because the numbers are universal and numbers are truthful. Numbers don't lie, so the Greeks love numbers. Beyond that, because they saw numbers as being the truth, the absolute truth, they saw that numbers were something that supersedes human nature. So again, I wrote this out, the material, but more specifically, there's an allegory that's referred to as Plato's cave. And very briefly, it's just a philosophical belief that the world that we live in is a shadow of what really exists, it's a really abstract concept, so I'm not going to go too much into it. But in essence, what they believed is that there were realms of existence that were beyond the ones that we experience in our normal day to day, and that the proof that these things existed lied in mathematics, lied in the numbers, because every time you can explain the natural processes of the world through numbers, to them it served as proof that they were engineered by somebody. They believed that the fact that there was this one universal force that sort of overlapped everything that we did and everything that surrounded us, to them sort of indicated that there was this plan, there was a design that was put in place by somebody or something that made us and the world around us. Now, that's why they love the golden ratio. That's why you see it everywhere. Beyond that, proportions. This is specifically true in the artwork. You'll see in the sculptures. This one, for example, Polykleitos, the spear bearer, mentioned in a video, mentioned in the book. Very significant piece of work here. I might not have posted the video for you guys yet. We'll see. So it's a very significant piece of work, not only for the contrapposto, but this serves as proof. Polykleitos was very analytical and very scientific about the way he approached his work. What you see here is a perfect example of what would have been commonplace for Greek sculpture at the time, and what you also see here is a figure that is approximately 7 heads tall, which essentially means that if you were to divide the entire height of the sculpture in lengths according to the height of the head, this figure would be about 7 heads tall, which was still taller than the average Greek citizen at the time. They were typically about 6 to 6.5 at the most. They were short, stocky, different times, different people. What grew from this was a pursuit of perfection. That's what the Greek statues were all about. So from this 7-to-1 ratio, which is already exaggerated, came... So what came from that is Praxiteles. This particular sculpture of Herpes. This particular sculpture of Hermes is approximately 8 heads, probably a little bit taller than 8 heads tall. It's a lot longer in proportion. This is an exaggerated version of the human figure, and that's essentially what they were about. They were about achieving godlike proportions, and if the gods were greater than we as mankind were, then that means that that's the sort of perfection that they were after. Now, to get to the part where this involves you. Oh, it worked for ladies too. The Aphrodite de Milo. This is more commonly known as the Venus de Milo. Again, 6'8", very exaggerated for a female figure, but slightly over 8 heads tall. Same sort of exaggeration that you see here. And as far as we know, this was the achievement of their idealistic form of beauty. Aphrodite was their idealistic form of beauty. So your assignment, what I want you to do, is to determine how many heads tall you are, which will require not a lot of time or effort or energy. Really all that you'll need is a tape measure or ruler if you happen to have a friend or family member that doesn't mind holding a tape or ruler for you. Another option, if you have a tape measure and a ruler and a mirror, then all you have to do is essentially hold the tape measure here in front of your face like this, next to the mirror like that, and then you measure, right, not scientifically, but you measure the height of your face and you write that number down. Third option, if this is a little bit precarious for you, or if you just don't happen to have mirrors in your house or friends, sorry, then what you can do is take a piece of string, and notice I've marked this at one end, and that's the end that I'm going to hold with my fingers, just like that. Alright, I'm going to hold this approximately around the top of my head, just like that, and then down to the tip of my chin. Alright, so then I hold this end right here, and then I'm going to measure from my fingertips here down to my black mark, which ends up being, let's see, it's 8.75. Yeah, boom. 8.75. You can't see that, but I can. Trust me. So, now what you do is take the height of your head minus 8.75, and you see how many times 8.75 goes into the overall total of your height in inches. I'm 6 feet tall, that's 72 inches, so what I'm going to do is divide 72 by 8.75. The number that you end up with should be somewhere between 6 and 9, somewhere in there. The proportions that we have today as an international standard are far greater than what the Greeks were used to dealing with. I'd say on average we're probably around 8 heads tall. I've seen numbers as low as say 5.3 and as high as 9.4 in the past, so we do have some exaggerated proportions. I think some of you might be surprised by this, but really all I'm after, if the Greeks believe that we as beings were most idealistic and most perfect when we were 8 heads tall, I'm really just seeing who can get the closest to being 8 heads tall. For this particular discussion board, all I want you to do is write your number. You just type your number in, make an entry, and let that entry be your number. You don't have to compliment or comment on anybody else's entry if you don't really feel like it. That doesn't really give you a lot to work on. This is more for my curiosity for anything, and it's a quick grade. So knock yourself out. Entertain me.